Morning. We are going to get started. Welcome to Central Pennsylvania as we head into October, and we just go right from summer to winter. There's no fall in between. Everything is just freezing cold. Glad you could make it out this morning. Welcome to all those people on Zoom. I saw Daryl come in this morning. Daryl goes right for our food and grabs not only a donut, but fruit at the same time.
Half a donut.
Half a donut. He's multitasking with his food this morning. We have a lot of stuff to go through today. We're going to get it started with our core services, and Dan and James, who's up, or both of you are up?
Thank you. Morning, everyone. Just want to thank everybody for their continued support to Homesale Mortgage. We really appreciate it. Anything you guys need, we're here for you. Morning, noon, and night. Not a whole lot to go over, just kind of continuing the theme with the volatility in the market with rates. It's quite the roller coaster ride right now. Last couple of days have been good, but that can be really short-lived. So just be aware, anybody that you have pre-approved, especially ones that, maybe have been in hibernation for a little bit, you want to check with, whoever they're pre-approved with. Dan and I check that stuff, make sure they're still pre-approved, at the current levels with rates all the time. But it's a wild market right now, and hopefully we'll get some stability at some point. So that's about it.
Okay. Sarah.
How it works.
See what I'm dealing with here?
She's providing emotional support.
Yeah, Oh, good morning. So one of the topics we wanted to talk about is actually escrow. So as you guys navigate this crazy market, I know different things come up needing to escrow money for either repairs or something that you weren't expecting on a walkthrough. And the question I always get is, well, can you hold an escrow? And the answer to that is, well, it depends. It's not a clear-cut answer at all. So basically, if it's a cash deal, we have a lot more leniency to hold escrows. We try not to hold anything if it's not a title issue, meaning a lien on a property, a judgment, or something that could affect the title. But we can get exceptions for things like a septic system, or if somebody hasn't moved out and we need to hold money to get movers in at some point. But when you have a mortgage, and I'm sure Dan and James will, Dan's already shaking his head, yes. It gets a lot more complicated. Typically, the word escrow scares any lender, no matter what it's for: plumbing, roof, moving. So if your client has a mortgage and you ask, hey, can we hold an escrow because the roof is leaking, or they haven't moved out, my initial response is going to be, well, I can do it. Is your lender going to allow for it? And Dan and James, are you guys going to allow for an escrow for moving or? Right. So the point there is a lot of this stuff has to be taken care of outside of settlement, or a solution needs to be come up. So I think one of the things we do a lot is, I'm just going to use movers. Seller hasn't moved out of the property. You need to pay a mover to come. Instead of holding an escrow, what is the amount everybody agrees to? I'm going to pay ABC Moving Company on the settlement sheet. End of story. No escrow held. If they're insistent that there is an escrow, you may have to get Tom involved, or you may need to think outside of the box, because we as the title company have to disclose everything to the lender, whether it's Homesale Mortgage or another lender. They're going to want to know, why are you holding an escrow? What's it for? We need more information, and that could delay your closing. So as these things start to pop up, as we get into the end of the year, if you have to hold an escrow, run it by everybody first and make sure you have a couple different solutions to, alleviate the issue before you go to settlement, so you don't have to delay anything. Do you have anything to add to that as an office manager?
I do. You can lay that right there. Boy, these are touchy things. Every once in a while, I'll get an agent who will say, well, we're going to do this, but we're going to do it outside of settlement because we don't want anybody to know about it. No, you're not going to do that, especially if I know about it. There's a reason why lenders are very particular about this. Title companies are very particular about this. When I typically hear somebody say, can't we just sign an outside of settlement and we just won't give the addendum to anybody? The answer once again is no, we don't operate that way. Anything that is signed outside of settlement, I want it to be to the point where we can give it to a lender and say, here's what we're doing, and make sure they're okay with it. When you start getting into holding things outside of settlement, keep in mind, everybody is going to sign one of those documents at the settlement table from the title company that says in so many words, is there any outside agreements? And everybody's going to be signing things saying yes. And if you know there's an outside agreement there, not only is the buyer and or the seller, are they in trouble? You as an agent who are supporting that and keeping it under the rug, you also have a problem also. So we need to get it on the table. We need to talk about it, pull in all your vendors that are involved, the mortgage company, the title company, so that everybody's aware. And we can usually get it worked out, but the answer is not let's do it outside of settlements and nobody knows about it. So thank you. James.
Morning, everybody. Just going to go over a couple of things here. Lender changes after the home sale is completed, like couple of I've been notified of a couple of changes after the fact where the mortgage is sold after the closing. Year later, they never notify us of the mortgagee change, basically. So that's something that you guys might want to remind your clients of, no matter who you use for insurance. So 1 year down the road, we don't have to get a no loss letter signed and get the policy reinstated, or depending on the company and how long they wait, we might have to rewrite the policy as well too. So open your mail is basically what I'm saying. So also too, we had a situation that got escalated to management from another insurance agent, basically. And so our agency has gone with the following stance on something for a situation for multi-buyers on a home, such as, I think the example was, I forget because it was a couple months ago, but I think it was where it was like 4 different roommates who were unrelated went to buy a house together. And our agency management just said, no, we don't want to write that, because in the situation of a claim, that could be very sticky if they end up having a claim down the road, basically. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that in case you have a strange situation where it's basically not a non-family, multi people involved in the transaction, basically. So that was basically all I had for today.
Okay, you can just lay that there. Thanks, James. Appreciate it. Also joining us this morning is one of our VIP service vendors. This is, and Bruce, I'm sorry if I'm going to screw up your name. Kronman, am I saying that correctly?
Pretty good.
Okay. Bruce is with ADT. He's going to spend a couple minutes with us telling us about his service and his product. Go ahead, Bruce.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you all this morning for a couple minutes. As Tom mentioned, I am a new participant in the VIP vendor program. I work for ADT corporate office here in Lancaster. Our office is located in Greenfield Industrial Park. I've been with ADT almost 8 years. I think that's important to share. I live here in Lancaster. I'm committed to the community. I've been told by a few friends that are realtors that I guess you all get sometimes bombarded by security companies posing as ADT. So with that being the case, I am the local account manager for ADT in this area. ADT is the largest provider of security services in the United States. We have 200 offices across the country. And with today's virtual world, I can assist clients anywhere in the continental United States. So if you happen to have folks that are relocating, maybe they're already ADT customers and they need assistance with discontinuing their service, or setting up service at a new location, then I'm available to assist. I have the attitude of I'm willing to pretty much help anybody. If you have clients that have a security system currently, be it with ADT or another company, and are having difficulties with it, you can always contact me with any questions you have regarding that system during the home sale or purchase. We can pretty much utilize almost any equipment that's already existing in a home. So if you have a client purchasing a new home that has security equipment in it already, and you'd like to refer them to somebody local to work with, I can generally utilize the equipment that's already in place. Most of what we do is wireless as far as new equipment is concerned. So our installations are very easy and, you know, don't damage the home in any way. We have about 15 technicians in our office. We're fully staffed. There have been a few good local providers that have been in business in Lancaster for years that have recently retired and sold their business to outside companies. So we've been seeing some clients looking for new providers that may have been assisted by those folks. So I work with clients for alarm systems, camera systems. We are partners with Google, so we offer a full suite of Google home automation products and wireless camera systems, which are super popular. And also smoke and fire protection. A lot of insurance companies are beginning to ask their clients or even require that people have monitored smoke and fire protection. ADT owns and operates its own security monitoring centers, which is kind of exclusive to most extent. We don't outsource our monitoring. We have our response times down to about 28 seconds. The big thing that I like to share with people is I personally manage and assist my clients from the consultation of trying to decide what type of equipment and system is proper for them, all the way through installation to service down the road. I make sure all of my clients have my direct cell phone number. In today's world, where I'm sure we're all thrilled about calling 1-800 numbers, ADT is the same way. We do have a customer service line, but I prefer people to call me directly if they have an issue with their system or a question on their billing or anything they need going forward. So although I'm sure you hear this in your lives and from everybody, as far as what type of service someone might offer, I can assure you, if you refer your clients to me, I will do my utmost best to make sure they're satisfied and take care of them in the way that you would, with personal attention and assistance. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you this morning. Look forward to being a good partner for you all. Also a customer there at Berkshire Hathaway. I've sold a couple of houses through your office. So I appreciate the opportunity to kind of be part of your team. So thanks for this time this morning, and I hope you all have a great day.
Thanks, Bruce. Appreciate it. Hey, Bruce, I know you're a new VIP vendor. At some point, I don't know if we have a brochure or your cards here. If you could drop some off here at the office, we can make sure that they're available to all the agents.
Awesome. That'd be great. Yep, absolutely. Okay. Thank you, Tom. Yep.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, designer bag bingo. And one of our persons who didn't want to talk at the last meeting, she is here. I won't put you on the spot, Ednella. But this is coming up on Thursday, October 27th. If you've never been here before, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of food, 50-50 raffles, designer bag bingo. The place is usually packed. It draws a lot of great people there. We are also looking for donations for door prizes and things like that. So if you would like to do that, please see Ednella. Who else is on the committee from this office, Ednella? Julie and Donna. You can see either one of them. That way you can participate in this. Everything that we raise here goes to the Sunshine Kids, which is Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices national franchise, who we donate the vast majority of our money to. So it's $25 in advance. Who has tickets, Ednella?
North Pointe office, Centerville office, E-Town, Mountjoy, and Porterville.
Okay, so she's saying the offices, for those on Zoom that can't hear this, who do they see at the respective offices? The front desk person?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so here at North Point, it would be Janice.
Mhm.
Okay. So it's $25 in advance or $30 at the door. Once again, I was there I don't think we had it last year. It was the year before. Anyway, I was there. It was a lot of fun that evening. So highly encourage you to get involved or at least make a donation. Thank you. I wanted to remind you about Rod's town hall meeting, which is coming up tomorrow at 9:30. You should have received a link at this point in time. With this going out, I will go ahead and put a link in the email that I send out with this program, so you'll be able to get involved with that. These are relatively short. They're usually about a half hour at the most. Rod gives you an overview of what's happening in the marketplace, in addition to anything that's happening with home sales. So I highly encourage you to tune into that. We also have an Agent Plus program. I mentioned it at the previous sales meeting. We have a contest going on from October 1st to October 31st. Anybody that forwards a new to business or vet candidate to me to sit down and talk with, you can be entered in a drawing that will take place on November 1st. And the winner walks away. Once again, there's one winner, walks away with $3,000. So this is available both to agents and also to staff. Normalizing boot camp. Who has, just to show a hand, who has tuned into any of these? Okay, so a couple people here. Man, I would highly encourage you to get on these. These are really, really good. And I'm not saying that because I was a host on one of them, but they are really, really good. There's good agents on here, top-notch agents that are sharing some of the things that they are doing in this normalizing market. And I'm beginning to see it more and more. We're going to get into a little bit later on here, some things that are happening in the marketplace that I wanted to make you aware of. And, I had the opportunity over the weekend, and I know James said, we're available for you over the weekend and evenings. I contacted Dan and James over the weekend to get some input on something having to do with today, and both of them were on it immediately. So thank you guys for providing some information to me. But all the sessions, and there's a total of 4 sessions. We're now 2 sessions into it. We have another one that is occurring actually this afternoon, but they are on our YouTube channel on the career development website. All you have to do to find these is go into the search box in YouTube, type in, I think it's Homesale career development, and you'll get into their particular YouTube channel, and you can see the recordings there. Highly encourage you to get in there if you haven't seen them or haven't heard them at this point in time. I'm going to take some of the stuff that was in the first session, and I'm going to share it with you here today, because we had myself and Dolly Bailey, who is one of our West York managers. We shared some things in the very beginning, and then we had a young lady by the name of Jen Clemens, who was in the business for about 4 years and doing extremely well. She was sharing some of the thoughts she was thinking about in this normalizing market. And Craig Hartranft from our office also shared some things. So I kind of took the questions that I asked them and boiled it down into some bullet points to share with you, so that if you didn't have time to take notes during the session, or you won't when you get onto the YouTube channel, you can certainly refer to them here. A lot of really, really good stuff. Once again, the second one took place. First one was on mindset, which I'll share with you here. But the second one had to do with interacting with sellers in this type of market. Really, really good content. So once again, highly encourage you. So I asked them about accountability partners, and do they have an accountability partner? If so, how do they use the accountability partner? What do they talk about? It was really interesting. Both participants have accountability partners. Both of them do. Jen, she was more along the lines of utilizing her office manager, Dolly. She's been utilizing Dolly since the very beginning when she got into the business. They meet on a periodic basis, and they just talk about things that Jen is doing to either generate business or things in her personal life. And by the way, one of the things I got from both of these is a lot of this stuff that they have with her accountability partner, not only is it business, but it's also personal related too, which was interesting. Craig was more, he started out with an accountability partner years and years ago, and now he's more into mentors, where he talks with business people that are outside of the real estate business, talking with them about their business and how they handle certain situations. He sees a lot of parallels between the real estate business and the mentors that he has. So he utilizes them in that way. They both highly recommend this book, which is called The Miracle Morning for Real Estate Agents. I got to tell you, I've never read this. It is now on my book list to read because both have read this book and highly recommend it. They say it really gets you on track. It's more of a mindset type of thing, which was what this session was all about. So once again, hop on Amazon, get it in Audible form or the book itself. The second thing I asked them about was, what do you guys do as a morning routine? When you wake up, do you just come right into the office? Are you in your jammies looking at something on your computer? And they both really have different types of morning things that they deal with. Both of them said that they use affirmations and goals. And for those of you that just went through Ninja, and I know we have a couple people here, they are big on affirmations. Affirmations are nothing more than really writing something down on paper that you would like to accomplish or that you would like to pursue, and just looking at it and going through it every single day, because it's one of those things, you do it long enough, over and over again, you actually become the affirmation itself. Both of them use affirmations and review their goals. Was interesting, Craig, when we talked about put positive stuff in your mind, Craig, as you might imagine, is a little older than Jen Clemens was, and Craig was sharing that when he first started in the business, he was using in his car cassette tapes, which probably half of this room doesn't even know what a cassette tape is. But he would put a cassette tape into his player in his car, and he'd listen to that going from appointment to appointment or to the office. Today, he utilizes podcasts, YouTube videos, SXM radio. He uses all kinds of different things. Jen does the same thing also. And they both said in their own way, if they step outside of their routine, it throws off the balance of their day. So they are very, very set in the morning. I know Craig, Jen wasn't a big exerciser, but Craig apparently is. Craig does anywhere from a half hour to 45 minutes of exercise in the morning. And he says after that, he says if he doesn't do this, the rest of his day just kind of feels a little off kilter. So once again, both of them are utilizing some type of morning routine. Time blocking. I think we've all heard about time blocking. It's one thing, and I know once again, not to keep bringing up Ninja, but in Ninja, they talk about time blocking. Both of them utilize time blocking, but in different ways. Jen is more on a day-to-day basis. Craig looks at his schedule out 2 weeks, and he will look at it on a weekly basis, but he looks forward 2 weeks. Jen uses her computer with her schedule. She uses her smartphone. Craig said he is old school and he writes everything into a book and everything is in pencil so that he can erase things and move things around. So once again, they're both doing time blocking. They just do it differently. Okay. What do they time block for? Networking, social media, appointments, prospecting. Both of them utilize it that way. I thought this was interesting about something Craig said at the end of his time blocking thing. He said part of the reason that he does this is it keeps him on track. But he said when he first started in the business, he would do time blocking and he would beat himself up if he didn't get everything accomplished. Sometimes we have these to-do lists that we put together, and there might be 10 to 15 things on the to-do list, and we want to get things accomplished. And at the end of the week, or excuse me, at the end of the day, we end up looking at that list and say, oh, I only accomplished 1 or 2 things. Craig was all about, listen, I realized over time I was beating myself up for not getting everything done. And he said, I try to accomplish, if I can get 70% done on my list, he said, that's a good day. It's a good day. So once again, if you start doing this, don't beat yourself up if you don't get all the way through your list. I thought that was interesting. He said, don't be so hard on yourself. What kind of changes have they made over the last 6 months in this normalizing market? And I got to tell you, I have listened to people in the Lancaster market. I have friends that are outside of this market. We are really, there's a lot of other parts of the country that are already head on into this normalizing thing. Lancaster County, we're just seeing the beginning stages of this right now. So we're a little behind everybody else, which is a good thing. But other parts of the country, they are experiencing this head on right now. And a lot of agents, and if you heard Rod in the first session, I think the number he threw around was 42% of our agents here in Homesale have not been in the business for 6 years. And they haven't seen a normal market. So that was part of the reason why we wanted to put together this program, is to share with everybody, hey, this is what happens in a normal market. It's not normal to put a property on the market and have 5 agreements in the first hour and 15 to 20 agreements in the first 2 days. That is not normal. That's not how things usually work. So it was interesting to talk to both of them. Both of them said they kind of got away from the way they were doing things because it was easy to do that. Once again, you put a property on the market, it goes under agreement in a very short period of time. You don't have to worry about all the things that they did previously. Craig used the quote, if we get into this market and we get further down the road, and we start seeing things slowing down, I guarantee you are going to have people talk to you and say, yeah, but my cousin Mary sold her home 6 months ago and it was on the market in a day and they had 15 agreements. That's probably going to change. And Craig was all about not having them look at you as the evil person, but have them look at the market and share with them what's happening in the marketplace right now. I'll get to this a little bit later with some statistics that you need to start sharing with people, statistics, so that they understand that this market is not the same as what it was 6 months ago, 9 months ago, a year ago, okay? Because if you say it, you're the bad guy. If you can share with them what's happening in the market, they can blame the market, but it's not you who has the bullseye on your chest. Be able to clearly describe the market, get educated, both said this. Know your stats. They are going to appointments with statistics about what's going on in the market right now. Not what happened months ago, weeks ago, what's happening right now, and they educate them, the people that they are talking to. Rod mentioned this, which we're going to talk about toward the end of this meeting, which is marry the house, not the rate. And, you know, our mortgage guys can back this up. I'm telling you right now, get people into houses regardless of what the rate is, because the rate's going to fluctuate, as James said, but more than likely it's going to go down. Now, I don't want to guarantee that, but more than likely it's going to go down because of all the crazy stuff we've been going through. I'm going to share with you some actual figures that you can share with clients as to the reason why they want to act now versus waiting until everything, quote unquote, settles down. Goal setting process. Jen was kind of funny when we started this, and I asked this question of her. She said, you know, it's okay to have anxiety about your goals. And she said she had to get over that in the beginning of her real estate career. Keep in mind, she was only in for 4 years now. But in the beginning, she sat down and she looked at the blank sheet of paper in front of her and she was like, oh, I hate goal setting. Her thought process is, now that she's been through it a couple times, she expects to have anxiety when she's sitting down doing her goals. And she said, I've learned to embrace that. It's a normal thing that she goes through. So don't worry about it. Everybody has some anxiety when they first start out. The process itself, both of them, by the way, handle this totally different. Absolutely, totally different. Jen, by the way, is a single standalone agent. Craig, as you probably know, has multiple team members. So they're approaching this differently. Jen was sitting down with herself. She apparently is very competitive. I've never met Jen, but it was nice to talk to her on the Zoom call. She said, I look at what I did last year and I want to beat it by 1. And her whole thing is she's very competitive. She said, if I did 25 last year, I want to do 26 this year. And she said her mindset is such, she doesn't even look at the market. She just goes out and does 26 transactions. That's the way she feels about stuff. She also, apparently, she picks out somebody either in her office or outside of her office as a co-op agent. And she says, I want to beat Misha because Misha's a top-notch agent. And I know she does a good job and I want to beat her. And she constantly looks at her and what her production is throughout the entire year. And she's constantly measuring herself to somebody who's successful. Okay. So it was interesting what she did versus Craig. Craig has a retreat with his agents and they talk about, what they did the previous year. I talked to Craig a lot because of how many people are on his team and the issues that they run into. And one of the things that I've learned from Craig over the years of me being here is there's never any problems with Craig. Everything is an opportunity. He reframes it. He says, if something goes wrong in a transaction that it was one of their agent's faults, they sit in their meetings and they put the problem on the table or the issue on the table and they all talk about it. And they say, how could we as a group not do this in the future? Because they all look at it as an opportunity and he really bangs that into his team members, which I thought was interesting. They also said, focus on the habits. Don't focus on the end result. Focus on the habits that will get you the end result, okay? And finally, they had some final thoughts. I just kind of opened it up to each one of them. And I said, hey, is there anything that I didn't ask here today that deals with mindset that you'd like to share with the group? And they both had some ideas. This one came from Craig where he said, just stop watching and listening to the news. Just stop it. He said it especially got bad during the last election cycle where it was just constant every day, both sides just bickering at each other and calling each other names. And he said, it just drags you down if you listen to this stuff. He said, using the election is what the election is going to be. And I hate to say this, how many millions of votes there are in the United States, your one tiny little vote ain't going to matter. Now, I hate to say that because everybody says the opposite in the news, but, pick out what you feel is your best candidate and vote for them. Don't listen to all the stuff that goes into it, okay? They both talked about this a lot. They spend a lot of time in their car. I know we as agents, we spend lots of times in our car going from home to work here to appointments. Use that instead of as downtime. Pop something into your cassette player and listen to something positive. Listen to something that you can take away from. The one thing that I got from Craig on this one, he said, he sits in front of a seller and a seller will give him an objection and he immediately has an answer for it. And he says to himself, where did that come from? And he realizes that he's listened to this over and over again, and it just becomes part of yourself. And I often say, I'll pull my daughter into this one, she's 28, I think. I hated her music. I think I've shared this with most of you. I hated her music growing up, but I listened to it over and over again because she kept playing it over and over again. And I could end up singing the songs because I listened to it just by being around her, even though I didn't care for the song itself. Same thing applies here. They both said mindset takes work and discipline. It is not easy. You've got to get into habits that they talked about. Getting up in the morning, Craig said he gets up at 5:30. Everybody, if you get up in the morning, you got to get into these mindset and habits right away. It's not easy, but over time, once again, it becomes part of you. And finally, Ninja will get you the right mindset. Even though Craig has not been through Ninja, Jen Clemens was through Ninja, and she speaks extremely highly of Ninja and some of the things that she went through. She said a good portion of mindset is all about going through the Ninja program. So I thought I'd share these thoughts with you because I thought there was a lot of really good content in there. Please take some things away from them. These are people that are doing it the right way. And obviously it starts with mindset. If you haven't been on any of these sessions, once again, one of them is today at 1 o'clock. The one today is called Marketing Your Listings and Seller Communication Strategies. That is going to be hosted, I believe, by Cheryl Yerger, who's one of our managers over in York, who has an agent, and they're going to talk a little bit about that. And then the final session is working with buyers in a normalizing market, which is next Tuesday at 1 o'clock. And James is going to be front and center for that one. And he's going to be a big part of that, talking with, I believe it's Sarah Sample, talking about buyer strategies and how she works with them and how you can utilize a lender in that regard. So hop on homesalebootcamp.com and you can register for both sessions. Each one is 1 hour long, so it's not that big a deal. So the final thing we'll deal with today. I have heard this from agents. I have heard this from buyers. I've heard it from sellers. Everything is moving so quickly. Recession is staring us in the face. Interest rates are crazy. Inflation is out of control. People are just freaking out. And because they freak out, this is what they end up doing. Nothing. They're petrified. People tend to do nothing without good information. I think at this point in time, it is so crucial for us as agents and people in this industry to educate buyers and sellers and the public on really what's happening in our industry. I don't want to downplay that we may be staring at a recession. Obviously, James and Dan, they deal with it every single day, looking at interest rates going up and down. But if you just focus on these things, you're losing sight of the big picture. When I thought of this concept for a meeting here, the one thing that struck me was we get and we're provided with so much information from market stats and Bright to the news, you name it. We have all these things coming at us from all over the place that are saying, here's a stat you can use. Here's a stat you can use. But the problem is sometimes we have so much information, we don't know how to use it. We don't know how to put it and bring it all together. Well, hopefully I'm going to do that here today to show you something that you can work with buyers on. And at the end of this, you can share with a buyer and you can say, this is why you ought to be moving forward now instead of waiting for things to calm down a little bit. So this is called the true cost of waiting to buy a home. True cost of waiting to buy a home. This is a chart with the national median asking rent from 1998 to 2022. This is coming from the US Census Bureau. That's what rental rates have looked like, okay? We're at $1,314 on an average rental right now, okay? And those gray areas that you see there, those are periods of recession. Periods of recession. We're probably, if we're not in a recession, we're probably really close. Look at the areas of what's happened during recession. What's happened to rental rates? Have they slowed down or have they accelerated? They've actually accelerated. You ought to know that, because if people are saying, I'm going to wait until things settle down a little bit, well, they don't live in a vacuum. If they don't buy something, they're going to have to rent something. And this is what's staring them in the face right now. And that line isn't dipping anytime soon. Okay. So just look at that. I then took this information, this is national, and I got it into local information. And I pulled as many local sources as I could to try to find out what the average rental rate was in Lancaster County. So I got on 3 websites, Zumper, yes, there is a word called Zumper, Rent Cafe, and rent.com. Zumper said $1,507 is the average monthly rent for a 2-bedroom in September of 2022. $1,500, just over $1,500. So it's actually higher. It's actually higher than what the national average is. Rent Cafe, $1,506. Now that was taken in July of 2022. They don't use bedrooms, they use square footage. And that was for a 1,031 square foot rental in Lancaster. And rent.com, once again in September of 2022, was $1,665. $1,665. So all 3 of them are higher than the national rental average. So what I ended up doing is I took an average of all 3, and the average is $1,559. Okay. Just stick that in the back of your head, because I'm going to use that a little bit later on. $1,559 is the average rent in Lancaster County. Okay. This comes from CoreLogic. I think everybody's heard of CoreLogic. In 2022, in the second quarter, they had their home equity report. I'm trying to share with you what's happened with equity across the country, and then I'm going to relate it back locally. Okay. So the average equity gain for US homeowners with mortgages has been $60,200. That's a big number. 27.8% is the year-over-year percentage increase in equity for US homeowners with mortgages. And CoreLogic says the total average equity per borrower has now reached almost $300,000, the highest ever in the data series. There's more equity out there than there has ever been at any time in our country's history. By the way, this is one big reason right here why the real estate market isn't going to go into the crapper, which is why everybody says it is. There's just way too much equity in people's properties right now. Okay. Unlike 2008, 2009, when people were getting mortgages with $5 down and no credit, that's not happening today. Our guys can tell you that.
2022, or is that just a year?
2022, yeah. So here comes a quote from, once again, someone at CoreLogic. For many households, home equity is the only source of wealth creation. As a result, recent record gains in equity and record declines in loan-to-value ratios will provide many owners with a financial buffer in case economic conditions worsen, so they can fall back on the equity in their homes. Okay. So here's the home price expectation survey. This is called the HPES. This is put out by Pulsenomics. They've been putting this out for years. They basically survey over 100 economists, real estate experts, and investment and market strategists. And they say, where do you think home equity is going over the next couple of years? Okay. This is where they think it's going. Okay. So it's not depreciating, it's still appreciating, but not at the rate that we've seen. Not at the rate that we've seen. Now, this is nationally, and this is coming from national experts. I then went to Lancaster County. And I said, show me what's happened in Lancaster County with median home prices over the last year. And right now we're at $310,000 in Lancaster County. That was August of 2022. I wanted to let the numbers for September flush out at this point in time. So $310,000. So if you look from the beginning of the year, previous 12 months to here, we're up almost 17%. We're up almost 17%. Okay. So this gets me to what I had contacted James and Dan over the weekend for. When we have people that we are working with that are saying, God, this is just a horrible market that we're finding ourselves in, it's really difficult. Interest rates are all over the place. I really don't want to do anything right now. Let's just sit on our hands for a couple of months, and I'll see you as things settle down. And I'm saying, do not do that. Show them what I'm putting together for you right here. Okay. So if you went to Dan and or James today, and you had a median average sale price in Lancaster County of $310,000 and put 10% into it, you'd have a mortgage that's $279,000. Okay. That's for 30 years. And that's your monthly principal and interest payment. About $1,856. That stuff is fairly easy to calculate. Okay. And a lot of people are saying right now, interest rates are so crazy, I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to wait until I get a better interest rate to get involved with something. And I'm saying every day that you wait, you don't have any clue what you're doing. I'm hopefully going to share with you what I mean by that. If you waited 2 years after you purchased something for $310,000, the sale price would be approximately $336,000. Where did I get that? The home price expectation survey. I used the 4.74% for 2023 and the 3.67% for 2024. So I'm using an average of all the experts, and they're saying this is what you could sell your home for in 2 years. Okay. That would be your mortgage pay down amount, what you've paid it down to, $273,127. And let's assume at this point in time, you want to refinance. Now, I'm projecting here, I'm thinking mortgage rates are not going to stay at 7%. They're probably going to go down, but who knows? That's really the only big wild card here. Your loan to value with those numbers right there would be 81.1%. You're almost at the point where you could eliminate your PMI, almost, if you're using the numbers. Let's assume interest rates go to 5, which isn't probably a bad estimate. Get a 30-year loan, that would be your new payment, $1,446. So this looks good. We're almost $400 to the good there, but that's not where I'm focusing here, which is the payment. I'm assuming that if you started out with a payment like this, you can afford something like this. Okay. This is what I'm telling you to focus on, which is the spread and the equity that you have in the house. Let me take it one step further. If we if we have a sale price of $336,610, which is coming off of that previous slide, less our mortgage amount of $273,127, you have equity of $63,000. Now, you had a down payment initially of $31,000, and this is coming from our mortgage guys. Your refinance fee $4,500 plus or minus. That would include appraisals and things like that. Okay. So you have available equity at $27,983. $27,983. If you rented an average rental in Lancaster County, that's what the rent adds up to in 2 years. And by the way, as you're looking at this, I said rents are the same for 2 years. What did that chart show initially? It's going like this. So I'm being real conservative with that number. That number more than likely is going to be higher. Okay. So buy versus rent. Here's what most people don't get. They're looking at these two numbers here. How you have to look at them is this way. We're not living in a vacuum. You either have to rent or you have to buy. You got to do one or the other, or live with mom and dad, one or the other. It's the third option. 27,983 would be your equity. 27,983 would be your equity if you purchased 2 years in this scenario. However, if you said, nah, I'm just going to sit, going to wait for things to, kind of calm down a little bit, you'd be to the negative 37,416. The difference is $65,000 for saying, I'm just going to sit here. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to wait till things calm down. I'm telling you, put this in front of them, say, that's a $65,000 decision that you just made. Okay. Guys, and I know I haven't really prompted you here ahead of time, with things that I put up here regarding mortgages. Did I go off the tracks anywhere? Okay. I'm telling you, do not let people say to you, and this is where I said during the session with Craig and Jen, we are going to be going into obviously the holiday season here, and people are going to be asking you tons of questions as you get to your family and friends and people that you know, and they're going to be saying, boy, that real estate market is crazy right now. Why is it? But you need to have some of this stuff at your fingertips and say, here's why you don't want to wait at this point in time. You don't want to wait. Okay. So I did this whole scenario. By the way, I said this is strategy number one. Strategy number one was actually paying $4,500 out of your pocket. And some people would say, well, I don't really want to spend an additional $4,500 2 years down the road. Well, guess what? You have so much equity in the home. I went to number two. Same numbers. I'm going to run through this fairly quickly. Except this time, when we get to the mortgage, if you recall back on the last slide, it was like 273. I talked to James about this. Because of how much you have equity in the loan, you can take that $4,500 and roll it into your mortgage. So how much is coming out of your back pocket? Nothing. Nothing. Go through the same process. And guess what? It's exactly the same. So these are $65,000 decisions that people are making if they're shutting down right now and saying, I don't want to do anything. Don't say, okay, I'll see you in 6 months. You're not doing them a service. Does this make sense? Okay. All right. Still thinking about waiting? Okay. And this was in the session with Rod and Jen and Craig. Being challenged in life is inevitable. Being defeated is optional. You're going to have all these people that are going to approach you and say, I'm just going to hold on. Once again, they're trying to throw roadblocks in your way. You're actually helping them by showing them this information and saying, I don't want you to go down this road, because every day and week and month that you wait, you're out money. Whether you know it or not, you're out money. Okay. So this comes from a guy named Roger Crawford. Google him. He's written a couple of books. He is a handicapped tennis player, has one leg. His arm is all bent out of shape, has a couple fingers missing. Just a fascinating individual, and his thought process. You talk about a guy with a mindset. Read up on him. He's got some really great insights. So that's all I have today. Everybody have a great day.